They told me I didn't belong here. But in the next 5 minutes, I proved them all wrong.
They laughed at him the moment he stepped up to the velvet ropes. His shoes weren't shiny enough, his suit didn't scream wealth, and so the guards waved him away like a nobody. But what happened just minutes later turned every mocking smile into stunned silence. This isn't just a story about rejection, it's about the kind of twist life loves to deliver when arrogance meets reality. Stay tuned, and if you love stories with shocking turns, make sure you subscribe right now. The night was electric, and the city pulsed with neon lights reflecting off glass towers. Inside the tallest building, a rooftop party was about to begin, and das exclusive event where only the wealthy, the famous, and the powerful were welcome. It wasn't just another gathering. This was the event of the season, hosted by the kind of people whose names appeared in magazines, whispered in boardrooms, and admired by social climbers. And there, standing at the edge of the red carpet, was Daniel. He wasn't poor, but he wasn't a billionaire either. He lived comfortably, drove a modest car, and worked long hours at his mid-level corporate job. Tonight, though, he wasn't here as a +1 or an invited guest. He had actually received an invitation himself, an opportunity he thought would never come. But the moment he walked toward the velvet ropes, the atmosphere shifted. The security guard, dressed in black, raised an eyebrow, as if Daniel didn't belong. Behind him, sharply dressed men and women dripping in jewelry smirked as they glided past, flashing gold-embossed invitations. Daniel, holding his own card nervously, felt the weight of 100 eyes pressing down on him. The rooftop was just an elevator ride away, but the distance between Daniel and that shining glass door felt like miles. For him, this night represented more than just a party. It was a chance to prove, at least to himself, that he belonged among the successful, that he wasn't destined to always remain on the sidelines. Little did he know, the true test of that night wasn't going to happen inside the party, but right here at the entrance. Daniel held out his invitation with a hopeful smile. The guard barely glanced at it before shaking his head. "This event is for guests of honor only," the guard muttered. "But that's my name on the list," Daniel replied, trying to keep his voice steady. The guard sighed, signaling with his hand. Another staff member leaned over, looked Daniel up and down, and smirked. "Buddy, this is that kind of party. Maybe next time try wearing something that doesn't look like it came off a department store rack." Laughter erupted from the small group waiting behind him. A woman whispered, loudly enough for everyone to hear, "Did he really think he could just walk in here?" Daniel's cheeks burned. He checked his watch nervously, hoping the guard would reconsider. Instead, the man tore the corner of his invitation and handed it back like it was trash. "Step aside, sir. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." The humiliation stung deeper because Daniel knew what was at stake. He had worked tirelessly for years, trying to climb out of mediocrity, trying to prove he wasn't invisible. And yet, in this single moment, strangers had reduced him to nothing. As he stepped back, clutching the torn paper, more laughter rippled through the crowd. Phones were pulled out, and flashes went off. Someone was recording. A man in a designer. Tux whispered loudly. Maybe he thought this was a free buffet. The group roared. Daniel wanted to disappear. His heart pounded, his throat tightened, and every step backward felt like surrender. He thought about leaving, about saving himself from further embarrassment, but something in him refused. A voice in his head said, "Not tonight. Don't you dare walk away like this." He didn't know it yet, but the very next few minutes would turn the entire scene upside down. Daniel lingered near the entrance, clutching the torn invitation like it still held meaning. The laughter hadn't stopped. In fact, it grew louder every time someone new walked up and overheard what had happened. One man, sipping champagne, tilted his glass toward him mockingly. "Security, make sure he doesn't sneak in through the side door. You never know with these people." Another added, "He probably Ubered here and thought he could blend in. Cute." Every insult landed like a punch. Daniel's fists clenched, but he forced himself to remain still. He knew if he snapped, it would only confirm their low expectations. Still, inside, the frustration boiled. Then, just as the mocking reached its peak, the sound of an engine purred down the street. Heads turned. A sleek black luxury car pulled up to the curb, polished so perfectly it reflected the city lights like a mirror. The driver stepped out, impeccably dressed in a tailored uniform, cap in hand. The crowd quieted. For a moment, no one laughed. They watched curiously as the chauffeur strode toward Daniel. "Sir," the driver said, bowing slightly. "Apologies for the delay. Traffic was heavier than expected." The air shifted instantly. The same guard who had torn Daniel's invitation blinked in confusion. The guests exchanged nervous glances. A chauffeur didn't just show up for anyone. Daniel didn't move. He let the silence stretch, his humiliation slowly turning into a strange, undeniable power. For the first time all night, the smirks faded, but the guard wasn't ready to surrender control. He narrowed his eyes. "Wait! This doesn't mean anything. Lots of people hire drivers these days." His voice wavered slightly, betraying doubt. The chauffeur, however, reached into his jacket and pulled out something that glinted under the streetlights, a small black card with a gold crest. He handed it to the guard without a word. The guard froze, his expression shifting from arrogance to panic. The crowd leaned in, sensing something big was about to unfold. The guard's hands trembled as he studied the black card. His confident smirk had vanished, replaced by a pale, uneasy stare. He whispered something under his breath, as though the symbol on the card was too powerful to dismiss. What is this?" one guest asked, trying to peek over the guard's shoulder. The chauffeur remained silent, his chin lifted proudly. Daniel said nothing either. He didn't need to, because in that moment, silence spoke louder than any defense he could have made earlier. The guard cleared his throat and stepped back, his voice suddenly lower, more careful. I wasn't aware you had this kind of access." The crowd buzzed like a swarm of bees. Who was Daniel, really? Just minutes ago, he was the nobody they mocked. Now, he was holding their attention in a way that even the hosts rarely did. A woman in a diamond necklace whispered, "That card, I've only ever seen it once. And the person holding it wasn't just rich, they were untouchable." The humiliation Daniel had felt earlier was now replaced by an entirely new emotion, control. For the first time, the whispers weren't against him, they were about him. The chauffeur leaned closer, his tone calm but commanding. "Sir, shall I escort you inside now? Or would you prefer they learn exactly who you are before you enter?" Gasps rippled through the crowd. The question wasn't just about entering a party anymore. It was about revealing a secret, something explosive, something that could shatter every smug face standing at that doorway. And in that suspended moment, as Daniel's eyes met the guards' nervous stare, the entire rooftop party seemed to hold its breath, waiting for his answer, because what came next would change everything. The air had shifted. The very people who mocked Daniel now stared at him with unease, their glasses of champagne suddenly forgotten in trembling hands. The chauffeur still held out the black card, and the guard, once arrogant, now stood frozen. Like a man awaiting judgment, Daniel finally spoke, his voice calm but firm. "I was invited. You all saw the invitation. But you didn't see me. You saw what you wanted to see, a man you thought didn't belong." The crowd murmured, unease spreading like wildfire. Some lowered their eyes, realizing how cruel they had been only moments ago, but others still looked doubtful, clinging to their pride. "Please, sir," the guard stammered, his arrogance now completely dissolved. We didn't know." Daniel looked at the chauffeur and nodded slightly. The driver reached into the car and retrieved a slim leather folder. When he opened it, the guests craned their necks to see what was inside. Documents, letters, and a crest embossed in gold, the same crest on the mysterious card. This, the chauffeur announced, his voice steady, is direct recognition from the host himself, not just as a guest, but as a partner. Gasps erupted. The word hung in the air like a thunderclap. Partner, not an attendee, not a tag-along. Daniel wasn't here to admire the elite. He was one of them. The same woman who had mocked his suit earlier now fumbled for words. But how? He doesn't look like... She stopped, embarrassed by her own sentence. Daniel didn't let her finish. Exactly, he interrupted. I don't look the way you expect, because real power, real worth, it doesn't need to scream through gold chains or brand names. It speaks for itself. The chauffeur opened the glass door, bowing deeply as though welcoming royalty. All eyes followed Daniel as he stepped forward, each stride heavier with unshakable dignity. The guard stepped aside so fast he nearly tripped, muttering apologies that no one cared to hear. Inside, the elevator doors opened, gleaming under the light. Before stepping in, Daniel turned back one last time. His gaze swept across the silent crowd, every face pale with regret, every smirk erased. "Next time you judge someone at the door," he said, his tone sharp but calm, "make sure you know which side of it you'll be standing on." And with that, he entered the elevator. The chauffeur followed, the doors slid shut, and the stunned crowd was left in silence. The same group who had laughed minutes ago now stood still, haunted by the weight of their own arrogance. But Daniel, he rode up to the rooftop not as a rejected guest, but as the man who had just taught them all a lesson they would never forget. The elevator carried Daniel upward, but in truth, he had already risen far above the people he left behind. That night wasn't just about entering a party. It was about exposing a mindset that too many carry, judging worth by appearances. Think about it. How many times have we dismissed someone because of their clothes, their car, their job title? How often do we assume someone is less just because they don't fit the glittering mold society tells us to admire? And yet, time and again, life proves that the quietest person in the room may carry the loudest power. Daniel's story isn't unique. It's universal. Each of us, at some point, has been underestimated. Maybe at school, where others assumed you weren't smart enough. Maybe at work, where someone thought you didn't deserve the promotion. Or even within family, where dreams were laughed at. But just like Daniel, the truth always finds its way out. And when it does, the same people who mocked you will be left speechless. Here's the lesson. Never measure your value by how others treat you. Their opinion doesn't define your worth. Your actions, your integrity, and your perseverance do. A suit, a car, or a flashy accessory may earn temporary attention, but real respect is built in silence, through effort and resilience. And if you ever find yourself on the other side, tempted to laugh, to mock, to look down on someone, remember this story, because you never truly know who you're standing beside. The person you dismiss today might be the one signing your paycheck tomorrow. So the next time life pushes you to the sidelines, hold on to this thought. Rejection isn't the end. Sometimes it's just the setup for a comeback far greater than you imagined. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of your own struggles and triumphs, then don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs encouragement right now. And if you want more powerful stories that inspire, surprise, and remind us of life's hidden truths, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell, because just like Daniel's journey, your story is still unfolding. And the best chapters, they're yet to come.